So I am trying to avoid a lot of slides. There we go. And I'm not going to do a big company introduction because I do hope you know Nestlé, otherwise my colleagues from Nestlé are in trouble, okay? But that's the company with the Kit Kat, the Nespresso when you get up in the morning, or Nescafe, or, and for those who in Brazil, Nido por Niño. Huh? Those brands, I think many of you grew up, and if you have a sweet tooth, then you probably know our sweetened condensed milk and other delicious brands that we have out here. At Nestlé, I'm the dairy guy, the global dairy guy, who is then coordinating our global fresh milk sourcing. So we source fresh milk in about 25 countries, and we buy milk from 200 plus dairy derivative suppliers. So that's where you buy milk powders from, very often fractions of milk, and why we don't directly buy that from the farmer. It's about half-half. And when you talk about milk fractions, you would talk about whey, lactose, and so on. Did you know that there are over 105 different fractions of milk that you can produce products from? That's crazy, yeah? Okay, there are different specifications and there are wider categories behind it, but there are a lot of them. Now, I'm lucky and at the same time under pressure because dairy is kind of the biggest carbon footprint provider at Nestlé. And when we look at that, it's about a third of everything. So if you're looking at 92 million tons of carbon a year, you're talking about, a third of that is going to be coming from dairy. And our company made a commitment that by 2025, this year, we would reduce our carbon footprint versus 2018 by 20%. Now, the good news is we're at last year's, if you looked at our non-financial report, we're at 21.3 last year already. So I'm not saying I'm going to the beach today, but I still have a job tomorrow. The trouble is that our target for 2030, it's 50%. 50% of the volumes need to come from regenerative agriculture, and 50% of our carbons need to be reduced. Now, why on earth would we set a target when FLAG, the SBTi FLAG target for agriculture in dairy, is 31%? Why would we do that? I mean, the first thing I told my bosses is, if you go for speed, it's going to cost you more. Are our shareholders going to agree with that? Can we afford it? So we need to understand the problem, and we need to understand why, exactly to your point. And we're not doing carbon for the sake of carbon. We're not doing Regen Ag for the sake of Regen Ag. There is a real problem that goes behind it. And that problem is called resilience. And I'll start there. There are a number of issues that we need to address. And the first one is resilience. Now, because we're at IFAMA, I'm going to take a slightly scientific approach, but you will find the professors amongst you will find all the gaps in between, right? So first thing is define the problem. And if you go into change management, the first thing you do is you choose one of the, top 5 change management things, and then you start applying that. And the first thing that they all have in common before they differentiate is build a guiding coalition. So let's define the problem. And I think I'm going to keep this super short because this morning it was said time and again. But I mean, ultimately, the revolution, the green revolution that we had in agriculture has created a quasi-period of peace. We could have had 100 years, not entirely, but let's say 70, 80 years of peace because we have filled more bellies than ever before. Right? That is the fact, and that is what the Green Revolution brought us. It has brought, today's conventional agriculture has brought more good than pretty much any other invention has in the history of mankind. That is a fact. At the same time, we've also had challenges that have come up, right? This has not come without a cost. So a lot of production systems today are under a lot of pressure. And it's, on the one hand, climate change. And I have been to tropical places, like in Brazil, I won't say where they've not had rain for 12 months, and it looks like the Sahel. Not a blade of grass left, not a leaf on the tree left. It was gone. We were shipping cane to the farmers and trucks of water every day just to keep cattle alive. February 2024, India had 40 degrees Celsius, another case. Sri Lanka, northern tip, didn't have rain for 9 months last year. You want me to continue? I know a lot of you have said it's real and there's still the naysayers out there, but we get impact on supply chains because we buy a lot of different ingredients. Sri Lanka, we buy 1 million coconuts a week, right? So we get impacted if things like that happen. And for the farmer, what does that mean? If you have a failed crop, if you're in a high input, high output production system, and you've got a failed crop, once, for many, they will collapse. 2, 3, 4 times, you're gone. Potato farmers in Switzerland, they're saying, we're not planting potatoes anymore. Europe is talking about rapeseed. I think that's the end of rapeseed in Europe because of climate change, and then good, there's also legislation questions about spraying and pesticides. So that's on the one hand climate change. On the other hand, you have the topic of water, and then you have the whole topic of the ag chemicals of a high input output. So the question is, and that was raised this morning, how do we produce more food with fewer resources while restoring our ecosystems and improving farmers' livelihoods? No money, no honey, is what my milk sourcing managers said in China when I was there. How do we make agriculture attractive for the next generation? Why, we've had the young board here earlier on. How do we build a system where soil health, water biodiversity, and economic returns are not at odds, but aligned? And the answer lies in collaboration, courageous adaptation, and this is why I'm going to offer you 3 points. I'm not going to give you the answers, because if I had all the answers, we wouldn't be collaborating and looking, we'd be just doing, and we are doing a lot, but yet still not enough. So the first one is regenerative agriculture. And regenerative agriculture is not a dogma, and I'm going to be extremely clear on that. Regenerative agriculture has to be extremely pragmatic. That means it needs to be locally adapted. So some call it regenerative agriculture, some call it conservation, some call it climate smart farming. It's not about ideology, it's about outcomes. We need to work with nature, meaning feeding and protecting our soils, improving water, infiltration, planting trees, yada, yada. You've heard all of that 100 times today. And ideally AI powered. Why AI powered and why IT? We want that because we ideally want to have every farmer working as the best farmer. And when I look at dairy, I see 2 types of dairy farmers. I see the cropper dairy farmer. They're either really good in growing grass, or they're really good in growing corn, right, to make silage and so on, or they're really good in managing cows. And there is that 1% of farmers who is good in managing both, right? It's like expecting your HR manager to be the best HR manager, the best finance manager, and the best agronomist at the same time, and who knows how to run a factory and do processing. Good luck. But that's the job of a farmer. So the question of IT is and AI is being able to allow the farmer to work with AI. And AI, the way we view AI is that you have a professional, a full-fledged professional, and AI is his assistant, his buddy that allows him to do just that much more. So regenerative agriculture, powered by AI and backed by that. Regen Ag, feeding the soil as a starting point and adapted with local strategies. The second point, it's about you. It's about people. And I wear another hat as president of Sci Platform, where we actually framed the Regen Ag framework and a process to go through across 200 food and beverage companies around the world. And if you're not part of it yet, please come and see me and please sign up, because you get to be in the seat in helping to co-develop that. Now, people-powered agriculture has to do with us, students, professionals, agronomists, scientists, all of us. And I love the picture you showed earlier on with the cattle there on the ranch, right? Because when I see these things, and this is, please take this as a positive, there are a lot of such examples. Today you have, you would have noticed that the cows are standing in the shade, right? And these shade things, they cost a lot of money. Now, you can call up those solar panel companies and ask them to just build huge surfaces of solar because you've got land. And again, it's a question of access to such sites, and you know, it's not that simple, but being able to wire it up with electricity to do these kind of things. But we need to think out of the box. We need to think on ways that we're not only having to put capital on the money, but that is business driven and enables an additional income for the farmer. We do have also policies or challenges especially with regards to water. We have countries in which the water table isn't dropping in millimeters, not in centimeters, not in inches, but we have countries in which the water table is dropping 2 to 3 meters a year. That is a reality today. So if we don't regenerate that, for those who don't like the word regeneration, we are in deep shit, sorry, but there's no way to grow anything without water. The third point is aligning incentives across the supply chain. And you see that I'm summarizing a lot of the elements that were mentioned earlier on. We talk about farmers and agronomy. We should also talk about processors like the Nestlés, and we need to talk about consumers. So we need aligned incentives, a reward scheme that goes from the CEO all the way down to the farmer. Everybody's on board, our salaries, our engagements, our performances. We in the food industry also need to earn the farmer's trust again. We need to invest into long-term partnerships. That means sharing data, co-developing solutions, and holding each other accountable. So when I work with our cooperatives that are supplying milk to us, I don't say, you need to. The first thing I ask them is, who are the farmers that you're assigning to me? Because that problem is my problem. I make it personal. If it's not personal, it's not going to work. And for us as a company, this became a bit of an identity crisis for Nestlé. I hope I don't get quoted too much here, but the job of Nestlé is to be the bad guy and to get the product that we need at the cheapest price, at the right quality, at the right time, to the right place. Now suddenly you're telling me you should go into a 5-year contractual agreement with farmers? And you're supposed to now invest into those farms and provide incentive schemes? I mean, that's just mind-blowing, but that's exactly what I'm talking about. But I have co-ops who are saying, no, we need to treat all the farmers the same. I can't assign those farmers to you. How do I deal with those? In some cases, we just simply cut half of the volumes because we've tried for 2 years and they didn't listen to us, and we shifted the volumes to those who did listen to us. That's brutal. I don't want to do that, but sometimes you have to, right? And for those farmers who go with us on the journey, yes, they hold us accountable. They said, well, you said, and this is the journey. And we co-develop those roadmaps with them, and we try to listen to the farmers as much as possible. By the way, did you know that Regen Ag wasn't invented, sorry guys, by the scientists, nor necessarily by us in the industry? We're just leveraging on those really innovative farmers who went out and did it. We're learning from them. So we keep an open ear, we stay humble, and we start adapting it and applying it. So we need to learn from farmers. We need to regain their trust. And yes, policy matters too. Governments must align their regulation with reality and with agronomic knowledge. If laws are expecting that for you to retain your water use rights, you need to pump that water, even if you've had great rain that year, that is, in my definition, insanity. It doesn't make any sense. Yet these laws are in a lot of countries. It's broken. If we breed crops as scientists to make sure that it is dependent on ag inputs, now that we're trying to move into a new form of agriculture, that is insanity. So let's make sure we have defined the problem and are going where we're supposed to go. We need to build soil resilience. We need to build the resilience of the supply chains. So let's, and this is my call, let's create a new mainstream, okay? Whatever we choose to call it, regenerative or not. I like the word regenerative because while it has done, conventional agriculture has done a lot of good, I'm out of time, it has also done harm and it needs to be fixed. So, very short, farmers, work with nature, keep your eyes open, share, teach us, help us. Universities, help measure, publish what matters. Share Regen Ag business cases. And this is a real call from our company to all of you. We want Regen Ag business cases that we can then take to consumers and start talking about it. Because I wish I could say, consumers just change, and by the way, all of you are consumers as well, but the reality is it's not the case. And the only way you change that is by reconnecting the consumers to agriculture. And that will come through our business cases and our storytelling that we need to do together. So, that's my call, that's our view. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. You won't escape my questions. So just very to the detail. One thing is Regen Ag, and we were together in Almeria last year and we were discussing if Regen Ag should be a certification or not, like organic, and just, follow the same fate as organic, of course. So my question is, Region Ag, should it be a certification or not? Is that really limiting the transition for conventional to region? That's one. And the other one is, how do you think the farmers are going to be aligned to make those changes that probably will, slow down their yield increase? At the beginning, of course, it will have better things tomorrow, but the farmer doesn't think about that very much. He needs the money this year, next year, whatever. So how can you incentivize that without actually creating a problem in the final price, or basically, taking out the demand that this will have? Because finally the buyers are the ones that are going to make the decision, and they are not willing to pay a lot more money for Region Ag products necessarily.
So Region Ag certification scheme, yes or no? We need to avoid greenwashing. That's one side of the coin. On the other side, if I look into organic, and I have a lot of friends that are organic farmers, and they tell me I'm doing stuff because I need to do it, and it's not pragmatic, and it doesn't make sense on my farm. We need to avoid it. I said Region Ag needs to be pragmatic. So I rather not, but at the same time, the consumer should also know that this is coming from a regenerative farming. And if we say that it's outcome-based, then maybe the health of the soil or another metric that goes on pack, whatever it may be, is maybe not a bad idea. But it does require full transparency. It does require full transparency of the supply chain. Then with regards to the second question, and my team is here, and they did this here in Brazil with Labo Rural, and I believe Nido for Nino has a special pack here in Brazil that is regenerative milk that's physically segregated from regenerative farmers. As I understand, we don't charge a penny more, but we do help those farmers to go through a transition financing. So it's about a 3-4 year period where we've tracked the cash flow on the activities that they need to do, and then we support them through that transition, and that creates that stickiness. Now, we also make it interesting that they can continue to improve, and we do see that the P&L of the farmers actually continues to improve. So if I compare 2020 versus in their business plans versus 2030, it's a X times. So it's a multiple of where they started off, and that is why they will keep on doing it, because, and this is a really good motivator.
Great, thank you so much, Robert.